crushed by an elephant. This is a weirdly specific method of execution, but you can't argue with its effectiveness. As you might have guessed, it was common in areas where elephants are naturally found, primarily in South and Southeast Asia. Elephants were often trained in order to ensure the trampling was as brutal as possible. Next, lynching, also known as slow slicing or death by 1,000 cuts, was a method of torturous execution practiced in China. The condemned was tied to a post and bits of skin and limbs were gradually removed one by one, usually culminating in a final cut to the heart or decapitation. It was used as early as the 10th century and continued for nearly 1,000 years. Luckily, it was banned in 1905. Keel hauling. Keel hauling was a type of punishment specifically for sailors, dreamt up by the Dutch Navy in the late 16th century. Offenders were tied with a rope, dragged underwater from one end of the ship to the other. While many died from the practice due to drowning or internal injury, it wasn't always meant to be fatal. As a bonus, men who were punished by keel hauling were often cut mercilessly by barnacles on the ship's bottom, or on the keel, and carried the scars with them for life, if they lived, that is. Gridiron, or gridiron, or gridiron. The gridiron was basically a grill for roasting people. As one might expect, it looked like an iron grid and was placed over a fire or burning coals. Some people were even basted in oil first, to ensure proper broiling. But take heart, they weren't eaten afterward. Probably. Now this next torture is probably the worst. I mean, I know there are worse tortures out there, but this one made my skin crawl and it is really disgusting. Rat torture. Rat torture apparently lives on in the minds of creative types, as it has been featured recently in the TV series Game of Thrones. In this terrifying and, I'll admit, creative form of torture, a hungry and or a diseased rat is placed in a bucket on the victim's bare stomach or chest. The bucket is then heated from the outside and the agitated rat chews its way through the unfortunate person's flesh and any organs it happens to encounter on its way out. Boiling. Nowadays, boiling alive is a fate reserved for shellfish. But centuries ago, it was a common method of execution